Hey, everybody, this is Liz, and today I have two wonderful people that I want you to get to know. And I'll go ahead and have them introduce themselves and where they're from.
Hey, so I'm Matt Baydala,
And I'm Andrew Holt.
and we're from Delta, BC, Canada. So that's our territory. We're just a little bit north of Bellingham. I think I measured it the other day. We're 20 miles away from Command Center. So nice
No
and
way,
close.
that's so
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
But we'll let people know there's a border in between.
There is a border in between, so it's not as easy as just 20 miles sounds.
Yeah. So, how do you two know each other?
We actually met in high school back in, I guess it'd be about 2003. We shared some classes together, and we actually became friends through playing video games.
Yeah. We were a Halo team, and we were the best team in town. I like to say, at
Love
least.
I love it. So, you networked with people and had competitions?
We did actually,
right.
yeah. We used to come down to Seattle for tournaments and things like that, and we used to, just in Delta, we used to hang out with a bunch of guys, more than we should have probably every night probably, and played, Halo for a couple of years.
Know people like that, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 4 o'clock in the morning, I remember driving by this guy's house that I knew, and all the lights were still on. And I'm like, you were gaming the whole night, weren't you? And he said, yep.
Yeah.
And then he was just wasted for work the next day.
That might have sounded like us back in the day.
That was us. We didn't really work back then either, though. So
That relationship.
mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So how are you guys related? How is the business together? Are you both co-owners, or one of you the owner, one of you the GM?
So we're both co-owners. We actually ran a business together for quite a while called Bayside Lawn and Garden, which we co-owned. And then last year we decided to join Augusta, and we split the business in half. And so we're now running Augusta as a co-ownership and Bayside as a co-ownership.
Interesting. So how long did you run the other business together? Like 3 years or something?
No, we started in 2011. So
a long time.
Yeah, so like 11 years, 12 years. We ran that together, and we kind of had very similar overlapping roles. We were both basically co-GMs or co-owners and GMs. We managed the team. Everyone had two bosses. It was a little bit inefficient. Both Andrew and I were responsible for everything, essentially. We wore every hat together, though. So like we kind of split the client base down the middle, and Andrew handled half of them. I handled half of them. But yeah, it was clunky and inefficient, and that's one of the big reasons why we joined Augusta, just to kind of separate our roles out. And
yes,
it's been really great.
Yes. So I've heard that companies that have 3 or 5 owners, that they almost have to pretend they're employees and everybody pick a role, and that's their job. Is that what you guys have had to do?
That would have made sense for us to do back when we were running it together. We didn't really do that, unfortunately, and as Matt was saying, that overlap kind of muddled things. Employees didn't know who to talk to. We didn't have defined roles. It was kind of both of our jobs to do everything, and like I said, it really muddled stuff. And separating ourselves and really allowing us to focus on very specific tasks now has really changed things in the last year and really helped us.
And what are your strengths really of each of you, and how do they differ?
Yeah, I think we're pretty similar strengths in a lot of ways. We're both, excellent in the field and the technical work. We're both good at managing people and dealing with people. Like our employee retention has been really good, and people seem to like us a lot as bosses.
On the other side of that, though, I think sometimes we're a little too nice, and got to be better at drawing hard lines, and having the employees kind of not run the show, but there are times where we're given a little too much, and we got to kind of put our foot down a little more. And that's something that we've been trying to work on as both business owners and just like people.
As far as differences, there may be a couple that come to mind. I think Andrew maybe a little bit more consistent and a better operator than me, and I think we're both great at sales, but I love sales. I think I'm good at talking to people and customers. Not that Andrew's not; he's great at that too. So honestly, it's hard to find. I think we're very similar, and that's it's hard to think of what Andrew's better at and what I'm better at. We're very similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack from this, because you are the first two that I've had that are actually, are you equal owners?
We are, yes. Yeah, 50-50.
Yeah. So right now, how are your roles divided?
So basically, I'm running Augusta now. So Augusta is completely separated from Bayside, and then
Okay.
Matt is running Bayside. So Bayside is doing all the commercial work, and then Augusta's doing all the residential work. So we have two separate teams. We actually share sort of a shop space in the sense that we have two barns that are right across like on the same property. So Augusta has one barn across the way, and then Bayside has the other barn. Um,
That's
so
awesome.
so they are two separate companies. We have different start times. We have different employees. That part's all separate. And then we're both basically the acting GMs of each company.
Oh, that's awesome. So when people work for you, they're not thinking, oh, he's the owner. They just know they're the manager, right?
No, pretty much everyone knows we're the owners as well. So yeah, but we have our job titles as general managers. So like Andrew said, general manager of Augusta. He's in charge of all the operations. He's in charge of everything. The only time that I really come in and work in Augusta is I do all the coaching calls. You know, I'm just an owner. I'm not in the business at all.
Got it.
And then the same for Bayside. Andrew's not in that business at all. But people know that he's a co-owner as well.
That's so fascinating. So do you take the systems and everything from Augusta and influence the other business and try to put all the systems in there, but you're keeping these two separate entities?
Yeah, that's right. We've actually been trying to do that with Bayside for years. Andrew's going to talk about this later, but we ever since we started following Mike Andes and his content, we've been trying to implement the systems into Bayside. So we've been doing that for a long time, trying to I don't know if copy is the word, but just implement the systems into Bayside. And yeah, so we definitely do try to do that. Mm-hmm.
What will be interesting to see over time is the brand awareness for Augusta and the difference between that and Bayside to compare the growth. That'll be neat to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like we were saying, we started Bayside quite a while ago, so the brand awareness is still really strong with Bayside. Augusta's only a year old now, so people are starting to learn about it. But that was something that kind of surprised me too, is just like how just being open for business for 10 plus years can you get a lot of loyalty from customers and just people seeing you and knowing you.
Yeah. So when any of us from in Augusta Nation, let's say I only did recurring services, but I had people around me in my area that did landscaping, we put it in the franchisee's wiki. If landscaping, if waterworks or whatever you need, we recommend names. So in your Augusta wiki, do you recommend your other company for the projects?
We do. So yeah, for the commercial side, we definitely recommend the other company, and then vice versa. Bayside refers Augusta for any residential work, and it works well for us in that sense. Like, it is two different customer bases that we're serving, which I think is really important to have that distinction. And yes, so we do refer each other.
Yeah, it has helped a lot. Because of the brand awareness for Bayside, they still get a lot of people asking for residential clients coming and asking, and we just send them straight along to Andrew and Augusta, and it's another kind of lead generator, lead flow, and it's been really helpful. Yeah.
Are you considered a growth model?
Yes. So we're definitely going to be hitting the growth side. Oh, sorry.
You're a solo model now. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, we're growth.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you meant growth mode versus profit mode.
Yeah.
No. I can imagine you're in growth mode.
Yes. So that's what I was going to say. We are going to be hitting the growth mode pretty hard this year. Last year, it was a little different. We were in growth mode, but we didn't have a lot of money to play with, which made it tough to really go out and advertise hard and buy new trucks and that kind of stuff. So this year it's going to be a little different. We've saved a little money for Spring Rush, and we're going to be hitting growth mode hard.
Okay, so let's back up just a little bit. You both, I'm assuming, heard about Mike and started listening to the content, or did you see Augusta trucks around? How did you come to find out about Augusta?
Yeah, so back a few years ago, I was just randomly searching for industry-specific podcasts just to learn more about landscaping. And honestly, I was just like looking for like somebody who could tell me about what mowers to buy and that kind of stuff. And I kind of stumbled on Mike Andes' podcast, and I listened to a few, and I'm like, this guy, he doesn't really talk about like equipment and stuff, but he's definitely onto something. He's got like these good ideas of like how to actually run a business. And And at the time, we were trying to improve things, and running a business is tough. And just hearing some of the things he was saying, like, it really resonated with me. And so I ended up telling Matt, I'm like, hey, you should give this guy a listen and tell me what you think.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so what did you think?
Go ahead. Yeah.
So what did you think about it?
Well, I was just going to add in, I started listening too and totally agree. Like just the business sense, it was clear that Mike knew what he was talking about business wise. And at that point, we just started following, his business and his growth. We went to a conference just, I don't know, I think it was half a year after we started listening to his content. And I think it was 2019, 2020. I think it was maybe the second conference, and we were hooked.
Yeah. Did I meet you then?
Yeah,
We did.
I remember talking to somebody who was, did it snow? Was it snowing during conference?
It was.
That's
Yes.
right.
Okay. I think I remember right where we were standing too. And I was just blown away. Like you're like 30 minutes away from me.
Yeah.
And so
That
did
was
you
nuts.
ever see Augusta? Did you ever come down to the shop or anything?
Not at that time, no.
Yeah, it's a good question. When did we first go to the shop? I can't remember now.
Or
The conference, I bet.
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah,
that's right.
we
We
did,
did
yes.
do a shop tour during that conference. That's right. Yeah, I remember it was freezing out.
Yes.
We walked all around the Bellingham shop, and we were kind of blown away when we saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was that close was pretty cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you talked to Lee then, or was it Mike at that time?
We didn't talk about the franchise then. We met Lee. We talked to Lee. Lee did a talk at the conference and talked about simplification. We talked to Mike. We talked to you. You guys had just started franchising at that point, and we were actually interested in going to the dinner. I can't remember exactly why we didn't. If it was because we thought, hey, let's try this on our own a bit longer. Andrew remembers that you guys maybe weren't doing Canadian franchises yet, and it didn't make sense.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Nick Schneiden came.
Yeah.
And so because he was there, the very next week, we started working to see if we could get into Canada.
Okay. So I remember it. Yeah, we were talking about going to the dinner, and we're like, should we go? Like, I don't know if this is for us. And then you guys kind of made the decision for us because you're like, oh, well, we're not going to Canada anyway. And we're like, okay, we'll talk about this, some other time or whatever. And then kind of COVID hit, so we weren't able to go to the next conference, and so we didn't see you guys for a little while after that.
Yeah. So once you joined, you came to training. Did you come to training?
We did.
Or was
did,
that COVID? Okay, you came to training, and then you went back to start this. But was your plan the entire time to keep the businesses separate?
Yeah. So I'll answer this. So we still don't know what the future is going to hold, whether we're going to keep them separate forever. But yeah, initially our plan was to keep them separate. A big part of that decision was we really wanted to separate our roles, Andrew and my roles. We wanted to have the two separate teams sort of thing. And we also saw it kind of the choice being that, okay, we can either cut out all the commercial and the big projects and simplify and just do the Augusta way and completely remove that part of the business, or keep that going, but as a separate entity. Because we're really bought into the simple services, the simple model and the recurring services. So we didn't want to have our Augusta have all the extra complicated stuff. So we kind of saw it as we can both split our roles and have the simple Augusta model, but have this other business running as well. So I'm not sure if that's going to continue forever. We're not totally sure. I know that we're both bought into Augusta, and I kind of want to start an Augusta location as well. So we'll see what we do with the Bayside and the complex commercial stuff.
Yeah, I would say you're the only ones in all of Augusta Nation that are really trying this. It's really interesting. When I think of the two of you right across each other in the different barns, you meet up separately with your teams in the morning, you've routed, you've dispatched, and then everybody heads out from there.
Correct. Yes. So yeah, we have separate start times as well. So Augusta starts earlier than Bayside, and there's maybe a little bit of run-in with the different companies depending on timing and stuff. And towards the end of the day, people do come back at the same time. And it wasn't so long ago. We only joined Augusta a year ago, so a lot of these employees have worked together in the past. Although we have some new people, obviously too. So a lot of them already know each other from working in Bayside, 2 years ago, sort of thing. So they know each other. They hang out outside of work too, which is nice. But yeah, we like I said, we do try to keep everything sort of separate, even though we are very close together.
And are you trying to do P for P for both companies?
Only Augusta is doing P for P.
That's interesting. So how do they talk to each other, the employees, about this? Have some asked to be coming over to Augusta when people make a little more on P for P?
Actually, yes, it hasn't been brought to us, but we kind of hear the chatter and, through the
Yes.
grapevine that there's, especially in the summer last year when the Augusta guys were really doing well on P for P,
Yep.
some of the Bayside guys were saying like, well, maybe can I join Augusta? Like they're getting paid more than me. And then there's times, in the fall and spring where the hourly guys in Bayside were making a bit more, and then they're like, okay, this is fine. But yeah, it's kind of funny. We're also not sure if we're going to stick with just hourly and Bayside forever. I think we want to switch to P for P eventually. It's just kind of a bit of a hurdle that I haven't crossed yet, because partly to do with the nature of the work, the commercial work. It's a little bit more difficult to break everything down on a commercial site into budgeted hours, and I know it's possible. I just haven't crossed that bridge yet. So we'll see. I think we might switch down the line.
Yeah, it's a little easier to build the contracts from scratch going forward, but to revamp all your old ones would be a bit of a challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm not against the challenge, but I just, there's a lot on my plate. I feel, there's so many things I can do, and I'm just trying to prioritize and execute, and that's kind of down the line a little bit.
So what did you do in revenue the first year at Augusta? Did you have a spring, summer, fall, and winter yet?
We're getting close to that. So yeah, we joined in December last year, but we didn't officially start operations until March.
Okay.
So we're getting close to the full year. We're going to end up doing close to 450,000 in Augusta, and then Bayside was a little more than that. We're actually moving a little bit more work from work from Bayside to Augusta this coming year. So we are thinking that with this extra work, we'd be more in the 550 to 600,000 range in Augusta. And then, like I said, we're going to be going to growth mode and trying to push that a lot higher this coming year.
So are you going to hand over to Augusta like simple things like mulch installs and sod and simpler things, and then keep the bigger projects with the other company?
Yeah, generally that's correct. Yes. Yeah, there's a few. Yeah, exactly. Like sod, for example, is a good one. It's something that Bayside was doing that we think Augusta could easily take on. So Augusta's going to be doing all the sod installs this year, especially, like I said, for the residential side, where Bayside will still be doing the commercial stuff.
We also work with we also work with a landscape designer who Bayside was working with, and we would do some garden design projects kind of in the range of $5,000 to $12,000. Last year, Bayside was doing all of those. We're moving those all over to Augusta, mainly because they're for residential clients, and that's kind of our black and white cutoff. If it's residential client, it's Augusta now, no matter what it is.
So right there would present some challenges, though, because you have the two separate companies, you have all your expenses and everything broken up. But for instance, a sod install, if you need to bring in 100 yards of soil or something, are you going to contract that out to Bayside to come in and level everything and put your soil in, and then you put the sod, or would you do that yourself?
No. So going forward, Augusta is going to be doing the whole job start to finish. There's not going to be any sort of overlap in the jobs. It's literally going to be, if it's for a residential client, Augusta's going to do it. If it's for a commercial client, Bayside will do it.
Got it. And would you pull in projects like small walls under 4 feet or anything like that, or you have a limit of $1?
There's no dollar limit per se. We do like to keep our projects on the smaller end. So I don't know, we don't generally do anything over about 15,000. That's kind of our sweet spot that we found. Not to say that we wouldn't go above that, but it would have to be the right sort of circumstances, I think.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So looking ahead for Augusta for 2023, what's your vision, your goal, or your plan?
So going forward, like I kind of referenced before, we're going to be doing a lot more marketing and sales this year, and really trying to push the revenue up. We really want to get the team trained up better too. That's something that we've been talking about a lot this off season, is getting a good onboarding program and ongoing training for everyone. We feel like last year there's just too much of me having to be back into the field helping the guys out on jobs, and they would be finished a job and I go and look at it, and there'd still be stuff to do, and we just want to make sure the level of our work is close to perfect by the time we're finished. And so like getting the training done, I think will allow me to step more out of the field and focus more on
Yeah,
sales, which is
for
really
sure.
where we want to focus our time this coming year. So that's kind of the path for this year that we really see.
Sweet. And then the other company, are you trying to run parallel with them, or just you both completely doing things separate, but having the same ideas, trying the same stuff?
Yeah, it's a bit similar in the sense that we want to grow Bayside as well. It's hard to say exactly because we collectively see Augusta as more of our growth vehicle, our scalable vehicle. So I think we're more focused on Augusta, but I will be spending a lot of time doing sales in Bayside and training the guys. Same parallel that Andrew just said, just making sure that my crew can manage the jobs on their own without me. We're going to try to train them to be more kind of looking for upsells on the properties. Both companies are doing that. So similar in the sense that I want to get out of the field more, focus on sales, focus on training, recruiting, onboarding, and building the team. So those are parallels. But yeah, I think we see Augusta as being something that will grow faster, and we're pretty excited for that. So there might be a point where I kind of, whether it's I help Andrew with his Augusta, with his training and all, I don't know. We'll see. Or we're kind of gearing up for maybe getting another location where we can set Bayside aside, implement a GM, and then I can start another Augusta, and we can just focus on Augusta.
Yeah, that's a great idea. For hiring, for instance, do each of you separately put an ad out for each company, and then whatever leads come in from each of those, you both just interview them separate? Or would you do kind of what we do? Somebody applies for command center, and I'm like, I look at their experience, and I'm like, you need to go to the media team, or you need to go to the field crew. So is that the way it is for you?
Yeah, it's very similar. So come spring rush, we each had ads up. I think I needed sort of one full-time employee at the time, and Matt needed two. So after my position was filled, we were still sort of accepting candidates, but then we'd say, hey, the position's been filled. We have there's this other company though that's looking for people that we know, does great work, and yeah. So again, it's kind of like the same as the sales thing. Working hand in hand does help with these types of things, and I think it helped us, this past year.
Yeah. Did you do better than you thought you would the first year in Augusta?
Well, you always have super high hopes coming into a year, obviously. There were definitely like ups and downs. The start was a little tough, honestly, just the whole transition of like just learning how to do. I kind of, I guess, just overestimated a little bit. Like I'm like, oh, we'll figure it out. It'll be not easy, but hard work will solve everything. But there were some sort of bumps that I just wasn't expecting. Honestly, learning the new software was so much harder than I thought it was going to be. We switched from Jobber to Service Autopilot, and
Wow.
I just kind of underestimated the time that was going to take to really understand. I honestly still don't even fully understand it. So I'm very happy to be.
And many others.
Yeah, very happy to be switching to Copilot now. But stuff like that, it was a really big transition. So, and then you tack on Spring Rush too. I felt a little bit underwater those first couple months.
I bet.
We got through it, and then things were a lot smoother the summer and the fall. And I think going forward, now that I really understand what to expect and what just how you guys work, how Command Center works, how just the whole process, I think going forward will be a lot smoother.
Yeah. So do you use Command Center?
We do, yeah. Full service, basically. I have it shut off right now just for the winter. Things are a little slower, so I'm answering emails and stuff. But we basically used it from March 1st right to middle of December. Yeah.
So does that make you jealous on Bayside that you don't have this help? You're trying to do
yes, it does, yeah. There's actually a 2-week period last year where Andrew was on vacation and I stepped in as Augusta GM, and I loved Command Center. Like just having the Connect team chat. I messaged because I wasn't as familiar with the systems as Andrew either, like the software. I actually leaned on Command Center more than he had, and it was just such a blessing, and I loved it so much. Like I just had them add notes, add quotes. Like I just had to basically focus on the field stuff, managing the team, doing the estimates, and then just having them solve all my problems on the back end was really amazing. So yes, I am jealous of that factor. In Bayside, I do have some other assets too. I've got actually my dad, who's a retired accountant,
Oh, good.
with me, and he knows the software, and I kind of use him as a command center. We also had a virtual assistant that did about, I don't know, 5 hours of work a week for us.
Nice.
So
Nice.
I did have some support, but it wasn't the same as command center where they just know all the systems and they know how to do everything.
Yeah. So how dense is the area there? Are people really butting up against each other? Do you have another territory that's right around yours anywhere?
Yeah, so we are a suburb of Vancouver. We're about maybe a 40-minute drive straight south. So it is a little bit more countryside than like the actual city of Vancouver. Our area is about, what is it, about 100,000 people?
Yeah.
Yeah. So our territory is about 100,000 people. And we're, like I said, we're kind of on the outskirts. So there's like a lot of farmland and that kind of stuff in between. So it's basically separated into 3 small towns. We have North Delta, and then there's South Delta, which is comprised of Ladner and Tawasin. And at the moment, we only service Ladner and Tawasin. And, everything's within about a 10 or 12-minute drive from our shop.
Nice. So are all your clients in your radius right now, or are you a little bit out of it?
We do have a small portion that are outside the radius. There's another city just north of us called Richmond, and it's about a 20-minute drive. We actually bought out a landscaping company about 6 years ago. It was a smaller one, and they had some Richmond clients, and so we've honestly toyed with the idea of whether we should be going out there or not. Every year we have this discussion, but anyway, there's about 30 clients out that way that we still service.
Mm-hmm.
My
So
grandma was one of them in Richmond. That's why it was hard for us to give it up. I'll just jump in. Right before we bought that company 6 years ago that had more Richmond clients, we had made the decision to cut Richmond, and I let my grandma know, and she was pretty sad and said, like, what am I going to do without you guys? So we decided to stay for grandma, and then we added on some more clients.
So if you have 30 clients, is it getting a little bit more worth it with route density for you to maybe keep it?
It's tough to say. So 30 clients is basically like we just send a solo truck out there for 2 days a week, basically. And as long as everything goes okay, that's fine. The problem is there's like a tunnel in between the like Ladner and Richmond. And sometimes there's traffic and it can be an hour to get through the tunnel. And so that's the real pain point. If everything's smooth, it's okay. As soon as there's a problem, though, it really kind of messes things up for the week.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. So looking to this year, what are the big, audacious, hairy goals?
Yeah, well, definitely revenue growth we have kind of set a target of what was our target, Andrew? I think we said we want to get to be $1 million company. I think it's definitely an audacious goal. It's more likely we'll fall into the $800,000 range, but we really have that $1 million marker in our mind. We'd love to be part of the $1 million club and go on the retreats that were announced.
Yes, this is a new thing.
Yeah, so that's honestly really exciting for us, and we'd love to get to that number this year. If we don't get to it this year, we're definitely going to gun for it next year. But that's kind of our revenue goal, and then we've got a 2-year plan to have combined revenues for the 2 companies of $2.5 million.
Sweet. Did you have anything to add to that?
No. Yeah, very similar. We actually had sort of a brainstorming strategic game planning session over the winter where we kind of went over all these numbers, and that's really like the big goal that we're shooting for. Like I said, in the past we've done some advertising, but this year we're really going to try and go out and do the door hangers, have ads in the paper, do Google ads properly, and really like spend a lot of money on advertising and just see how much bigger we can make things this spring and really crush the spring rush, and then hopefully that helps us out for the rest of the year. Yeah,
I would say another goal is just to get out of the field. I don't have an exact metric for that, what that means. Like, is that completely out of the field or just more out of the field? I know that's not very exact, but that's definitely a goal of ours.
No, that's awesome. Did you use door hangers like the instant quotes this past fall?
We did through the summer more when things were a little slower. We didn't do enough of it though. I had some days where I'd be out myself doing a couple hours sort of at the end of the day. But I think that's something that we need to make more of a focus this coming year. We heard from other franchisees that it works really well, and yeah, we got some jobs from it. And once the schedule was kind of filled up, I would, I'd be out in the field working or whatever. So I kind of put it on the back burner. I need to make it more of a priority to just, do a day, a week, or whatever it is of just like, this is what I'm doing today. It's just door hangers, or have somebody else do it, or whatever that looks like. But just be more focused and making sure it gets done.
Yeah, that's good. And then moving forward, we have this quote thing where you can get an instant quote online. I don't know if it's called instant quote, but it's going to have the 3 separate prices, property sizes, and then you can pick the one and get an instant quote there. So we're trying that out with the corporate locations. And then does that interest you? Is that something you guys would probably try?
It definitely does interest us. We signed up back when it was announced around conference there. And I was looking at it the other day. Our website's live with it. So yeah, it looks great. This being the slow season, we haven't really seen anybody like clicking on it, but come the spring rush, I think just like the ease of getting an instant quote will really be attractive to some customers, rather than having to fill out all the information, having somebody come and look at the property and assess it. It just like, bang, it's right there. So I'm really looking forward to see how well that works this spring.
Yeah, I think a lot of professionals, like I would love that. Never speak to a person, arrange the entire thing. They show up. I did that for Command. We couldn't clean the place with that many people, one person just trying to do that, every evening with the volume of people. And I did that. I went online, I got a place, I got a price. I've never even met the people.
Yeah. I can stand when you're looking online for something and they don't have the prices and you have to call or fill out a form and wait for someone to call back. The instant price is so appealing.
Yeah. It is. And so I actually ended up doing the same. You've heard Mike talk about his Mary Maids experience. Mm-hmm. And so I did the same thing. I just went in and did an estimate video. The same thing, just a video of everything I needed done. Same people, never met them. And now they're cleaning his place too. So it's been great.
Cool.
Yeah. So all these things from Augusta you can implement in this other business, and so many of these things we can implement, all of us, in our personal lives, and then from those experiences realize what is awesome about Augusta from what we've implemented. So you guys are young guys. How do you feel about Augusta so often changing and adding more with technology? So for instance, the AI that answers the phone and all the frustrations that come with something new like that brought into the franchise. How are you when you think about that?
So it is a very kind of surprised me after we joined how quick things can change. Yes. For sure. I basically look at it as like you guys and Mike are always trying to improve things. So I'm always happy to like go on board with almost anything. So like the AI thing, we talked about it multiple times. Like, should we be doing this? Should we not? And yes, of course, there's going to be kinks. Yes, of course, there's going to be customers that don't like it, especially at the start. But I think in the long run, like things are going to work out better. So we end up sticking with it. And I just think you guys are always looking to improve things. And we really appreciate that. And we always want to be on board. So I don't know. We really appreciate the innovation and staying ahead of the curve. And that's kind of one of the big reasons we joined Augusta, is like we kind of looked at it as like Mike's investing all this money into these different softwares and stuff and AI and all these different things that like we on our own would have a really tough time doing. And it's really nice that like he's basically doing it for us. So that's one of the big reasons we joined.
Yeah. Did you have anything to add to that?
Just the last part he said, like that's one of the big reasons we joined is to be on the cutting edge. If we didn't join, I feel like we would be way behind on AI. We'd be way behind on robotics when that eventually comes. And it's just really comforting to know that, Mike and corporate, you guys at corporate are doing this R&D and testing it out at your locations and then helping us implement it. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think that we're going to see a big difference this coming spring with having those prices right on the website and having AI answering our phones 24/7. I think that it's I don't know that we're prepared for the volume of leads we're going to get as the brand awareness has grown. And I think it's going to just blow up this year. And the times that I've had, even with Nick Reed with his first year, he's like, just make it stop, turn them off, And I thought that's like I did the same thing with Mike. I remember begging him, please, can't we do what doctors do? And they say not taking on new patients. Can't we say not taking on new lawn care customers? And he's like, that's the worst mistake we could make, because this is the time we actually get them. We just have to tell them we're booked out too far. We had to start doing bi-weekly instead of weekly on these, but we still have those customers today. So even when you're sick to your gut that you want it all to stop, we have to keep going. So it's going to be pretty exciting this year to see what happens.
Yeah, it really is.
Let me touch a little bit on your relationship, because this is huge and it's like a marriage almost. And I remember we had two young guys that were going to start a location together. And we've always been really, pushing people against doing that. And so when they were determined that they wanted to do it, they were going to purchase, and Mike and I took them out for dinner one night. And it was basically like having a counselor give you premarital counseling.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, Mike said, just like in marriage, you have to decide, what are you going to do about the kids? What are you going to do about your everything in regards to your marriage, this marriage you have together? Because he said, so what are you going to do when the first guy gets married and then the other guy is working his butt off and the other guy goes on his honeymoon? So now you've got 2 weeks where he wasn't even there. Then the other guy's doing the work. Then somebody gets sick. And what are you going to do then? So basically he took all of these scenarios and he said, not if, but when all these things happen, how are you going to handle every single one of them? One of them is in the military. So he does have duty. Once a year, they have to go away for 3 weeks, solid 3 weeks to a month. And then other than that, every month they have a weekend that they have to go do what they call drills. So have you guys actually had to sit down and measure these things out? Like, are either of you married, or like, where are you in the stages of life, and how has that changed?
Yeah. So, I mean, we've been through a lot of these things that you just talked about. We are both married now, and neither of us were married when we started our first company. So we've gone through a lot of change, obviously. When we started out, we were quite young and we didn't really know where the business was going. It was kind of one of those situations where it's like, let's try this out and see how it goes. We didn't have any sort of formal partnership agreements or anything like that. We just, we're 50-50 partners. We'll just kind of do what we can. But as things kind of evolved, we got more serious about it. We had these conversations of what's going to happen. I think the big, like, kind of overall thing of having a business partner is just like, you always have to sort of understand that they want the best for the business as you do. So it's, even though, like, we may not agree on everything, we agree on most stuff, but we may not agree on everything. You just have to understand that they're coming from a place where they want the best for the business, and you are also coming from a place where you want the best for the business. And it's just doing your best to accommodate where you can, and understanding that, like, you are in it for the long term, just like a marriage. And if you let something come between you over something silly, like, it can really sort of torpedo all this work that you've been putting in for years, right? So it's just trying to be empathetic with the other person and understanding. And our life situations are a little bit different now. Like, Matt has a few kids, if you want to talk about that. I don't have kids yet, but
yeah, I've got 4 kids now, and
oh my word!
Like 5 years ago, I had 0, which so yeah, I got married. Met my wife 6 years ago, and she had 2 kids from a previous marriage, so they became my stepkids, and now my wife and I have 2 of our own. So we've got a 1-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 14-year-old, and that's been time consuming, to say the least. Just managing that, my family, and taking care of my kids. So that's been a big factor, a big change. But ultimately, like Andrew kind of touched on with the partnership and with a marriage or a partnership like this, I think it really comes down to trust. And with Andrew and me, like, we fully trust each other. I have no doubt that Andrew's ever going to do anything like slimy or sleazy or underhanded with me. Like, I never have to worry about that. Like, money, never worried that he's taking money or doing anything to undermine me or the company. So I think partnerships can fail if you don't have that. And Andrew and I have known each other for so long and been really close for so long that that's something that like is just so solid. So I think that's why our partnership works so well, is that we just trust each other and know that the other person has our best interest at heart.
Yeah. Do you each take an owner's draw from both locations?
So how we're doing it now is I'm on salary at Augusta, and then he has a salary with Bayside. And then we talk about just throughout the year when there's extra money, we just talk about bonuses as it comes up, basically. And then I'll bonus myself through Augusta, and he will bonus himself through Bayside, and we just keep it even, basically.
Got it. So Matt has 4 kids. I'm sure you've had to buy a house or rent a house. It's so expensive.
Yeah,
it's so, yeah. So when you need a raise, like your lifestyle changes, it has to change in our lives over time. Do you say, I need a raise? And so does the other person do that at the same time? Or like, how would your relationship be conflicted in those moments?
Well, we have just kept everything completely even. So that might be a bit of an area where, because my life is a bit more expensive right now than Andrew's, I would say. I kind of need more money. So that has been a bit of a pressure point in the last couple of years, I would say, where I'm kind of pushing for maybe more bonuses, a little bit more of a raise, and Andrew doesn't necessarily need it as much as I do. And maybe Andrew would prefer to keep more money in the business. But we're just so, I don't know, we're just so agreeable and amicable that, Andrew's happy to have these, our salaries go up a bit. I'm not pushing it too hard. We're managing. My wife still works too. We've got lots of support from my parents. So, and I would love to keep as much money in the business as possible too. I really want to grow these businesses. I'm kind of seeing this as just like a season of financial struggle. And, in a few years, we're going to come out on the other side and have the extra money that we kind of need. So it's just a balance. We're, like I said, we're very agreeable. We're great at talking about these things, and we don't really have conflict with it.
Yeah. So bringing wives into the situation, you guys were friends way before, you started businesses way before, and I'm sure your wives have seen the growth. It sounds like both of the wives came into your life while you've been in the thick of it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So they already know kind of how you're wired and that you are kind of locked in during the spring. And do they both know each other, like each other? I'm sure they know each other, but do they get along pretty good?
Yeah, they get along well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Yeah. So how has it been talking to your spouse about this, like the plans for the company in your life? Do they understand there's times that you're just not going to be present?
Yes, for sure. Yeah. So my wife actually runs her own business. She has a graphic design studio, and she's doing really well. And honestly, we're kind of at similar places in our lives. Like our business sizes are fairly similar, and the understanding of, I have to work tonight because there's hours of stuff to do. She totally gets it, and she kind of does the same thing. So it's kind of nice sometimes. I don't have that pressure of like being like, hey, you're not here with me tonight. We're literally like in our office working beside each other. So
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so we really try to, but we at the same time we try to, do date nights once a week sort of thing, and it's not like we're working every night. So, but like just having that understanding in my life is I think really good for the business, and I think part of the reason why we got together is we were compatible in that kind of way.
That's awesome. How about you, Matt?
Well, my wife, she's extremely understanding. She gets, the spring rush. She understands what we're working for, that we're sacrificing right now, and that we're both extremely busy. I help a lot with the kids, after hours in the evenings, on the weekends. Like I'm always there, and we're just a great team. So she really does get it. She knows, it's a bit of a struggle. Just we're both working and taking care of the kids nonstop. It feels like at times, but yeah, she's definitely really understanding and lets me do what I need to do.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing about that and your relationship, and then how it changes when you both get married. I'm sure that will help a lot of people, even husbands and wives, but to try to have a business partner, 90% of the time it doesn't work. And basically when Mike talked to these young guys, he told them all people split up eventually. Just because of life, even agreed, if it's agreed on, it seems like they always do. So it would be really super cool to see if you guys were together for your whole careers. You know, sometimes people move and that changes it's just going to change the whole dynamic of what you've got going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's impossible to know what the future holds. But I know that whatever happens, whatever changes come, like we're going to be able to work it out and figure out something that works for both of us.
Yeah, it'll also be exciting to see with the two different businesses how you guys end up going and to see if Bayside does better just from implementing even though it's been in business longer, but how it does implementing some of the Augusta systems before, but without being Augusta.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are you pretty involved with the Facebook group and with the other franchisees around you?
Oh man, we love the Facebook group. We were talking about this not too long ago, actually, how joining Augusta, that was not something we were thinking about, the community. And like, of course, like you hear about the systems and all these different things, which are all great. But the whole Facebook community, just being on there every day, having that daily reminder of these great owners and great people, like really trying to do their best all the time. It just like, it really helps me just sort of stay on track and want to do better. And like, you know, in the past it might be like, oh, you know, I'll get to it tomorrow or next week or whatever it is. But just like, you know, always being in it and seeing Mike's daily mastermind just like really helps just sort of focus me anyway on sort of a day-to-day basis of just sort of staying the course and you know, stay working hard all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would say I'm addicted to the Facebook group. I wasn't really on social media for the last few years, but I reinstalled Facebook for the group, and it's like I check it probably like 20 plus times a day, and I read everything on there. I try to interact with the guys. As far as our local franchisees, we've got quite a few people in our local area. Max in Burnaby is kind of the maybe the leader. He's kind of put on these quarterly or biannual meetings with us and gets us all together. Has questions for us to go through. Encourages us to bring our P&Ls. So that's been really handy. He's kind of like our go-to. We have a local Lower Mainland group, Vancouver Lower Mainland, and Max is always the first one to kind of answer any questions. He's really helped us out quite a bit. So yeah, we got a great community. Augusta Nation's awesome. We love it.
Yeah, that is a great idea, getting together like that. Today, all the Washington State owners are getting together and bringing their P&Ls, going over last year, planning next year. And we just had franchisee training yesterday. We had 30 people here, and we ended yesterday. And then Ryan Payne and his guy, they just worked out all their numbers for the upcoming year. So they're going to show up at the Washington State group today and surprise them and do the whole thing. So it is awesome. I mean, I was giving my talk with the whole group here and just acknowledging that none of us would have ever met unless we had all taken up the opportunity to work for this. We're really building something together. Mm-hmm. So starting to wrap it up, how do you guys feel about Copilot and your transition so far? Are you weeping and wailing, or is it not as bad as you thought?
Well, from my perspective, I was so excited to get out of Service Autopilot. Honestly, the year in Service Autopilot was, like I said, a lot tougher than I was expecting. But it is another transition, which is never an easy thing. So I spent a lot of time just, we basically just switched over January 1. So it's only been 12, 13 days here. So this past week, I spent a lot of time in it. I'm starting to understand it. I think kind of by the end of January, I should have a good feel for it. It is a little more than I was thinking, though. Like Jobber, which is what we were on 2 years ago, it's just so simple in so many ways. And like, it's great having these features, but having more features does take more time to sort of learn. So yeah. I'm getting there, but it is a big transition again.
Yeah. How about you, Matt?
So on the Bayside side of things, we did stick with Jobber up to this point, but we're switching to Copilot now. So I got in with, the price lock guarantee. We signed up. So right now I'm actually, running both softwares. We're still using Jobber for January, and I'm planning to switch over to Copilot fully February 1st. So I haven't got into it quite as much as Andrew has yet, but I'm planning on, starting by all our customers are switched over to Copilot and all that information's there, but I haven't created any jobs yet or done any invoicing or anything yet in Copilot. So yeah, I'm going to do that for February 1st and go through the journey with Andrew. It'll be great to have one software for both of our companies so that when I do step in to help Andrew, if he's on vacation or whatever, I can just seamlessly do it. Whereas last year when I stepped in, I didn't know Service Autopilot. So that's why, I needed Command Center's help a lot more then. So yeah, we're really looking forward to it.
So on your other company on Bayside, are you going to be in the Copilot Facebook group as Bayside?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm in there as Matt Baydala. I'm in the Copilot group. So I haven't really thought about, I guess Bayside should join too. I haven't joined with Bayside yet. So
It
yeah,
would just be really cool to have you both on there. And even let's say somebody in Augusta Nation was on there and they're complaining or whatever, and they don't recognize your name because you're Bayside, and you could get on there and you can be like, oh, that's just a user error. You need to do in this. They would never know it was you. It would be great.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah, genius.
That'd be fun. I mean, you might as well. You got and people will recognize you from Augusta after a while.
Yes, yeah, I will do that. I'll join with Bayside.
So what advice would you give, guys, to other people in your position? All this changed so fast. What would you do differently, or what would you say to them to encourage them to do or not to do in the future?
Yeah, well, so like what we would do differently, there's a couple ways I can approach that. Going back all the way to 2011 when we first started our business, sitting in my position now, looking back, I kind of wish we had focused a little bit more on the business. At the time, we weren't sure that it was going to be a long-term thing, so that's maybe why we didn't. I'll also admit I did a little bit too much socializing in my 20s and wasn't really thinking about business or my future as much as I should have. I always thought, that'll come. I'll work hard in the future, and it did come, but it took a little longer than I would have liked. In hindsight, I should have just worked a little bit harder and focused a little bit more on my business and just kind of taking things like one step at a time. Things can seem overwhelming, especially when you jump into something new and there's all these different things to learn. But if you just take it one day at a time, one step at a time, one foot in front of the other, I think that's the best way to approach big challenges, just one chunk at a time. So that's kind of my advice, I would say. And then I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I totally agree. We were talking we had talked about like joining Augusta for a few years. It's like making those tough decisions, I think, sooner rather than kind of waffling on things and going back and forth, just like sort of picking a lane and going with it. I wish we had joined Augusta a couple of years sooner when we had first had that sit down the first conference there. It took us a few more years to get into it, and then like as we built the business bigger, the transition was probably a little harder. If we had done it earlier, it would have been a little easier. But just sort of trying to what am I trying to say here? Yeah, just trying to commit to things, and that's basically it.
And I'll just add one more thing. I think thinking like long term is really important. You may not have all the success that you want like right away, but don't quit. Keep at it over time, over long periods of time. That's when you can really see success. It compounds.
Great. And could you guys each share a quote? Are you guys quote people? Do you listen to audibles and podcasts and all that?
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah.
Listen to tons of books and stuff. Not necessarily like a huge quote person, but I did found one that I really liked. It's kind of along the same vein of like just not giving up. And the quote is, "It won't happen overnight, but if you quit, it won't happen at all." So just Mike talks about this a lot too. Just like there's going to be struggles. You just sometimes you gotta just keep going, and like you will see the results eventually, even if you in the moment can't really see the path forward, I guess.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Yeah. That reminds me of something Alex Hormozy said too, is the only way to lose is if you quit. Just keep going. That's how you win the game. But my quote that I wrote down is through discipline comes freedom. And I don't know who said that. I've heard Jocko Willink say it. I've heard Joe Rogan say it. I know that Liz, you actually recommended a book by Ryan Holiday last year, The Discipline is Destiny. And I love that book. It really resonates with me. Me personally, I feel like I go through kind of ups and downs of motivation. And if I just focus on small tasks, discipline, like repeating just the simple things, that I kind of, perform better and get more out of life. So that's my quote.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate your time today. I know that's two families that had to take time out so you guys could do this, but I think it's really going to benefit Augusta Nation and other people specifically that already have a business together. and are wondering if they should transition. That's a big decision to make, and to show that you guys have done it successfully so far is really great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Liz.
Yeah, I appreciate your time too.
Have a great day.
Okay,
You too.
you too. Bye now.
Bye.